Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our review of Aladdin with the boys Connor
Hello.
and Benny.
Hi there.
Well, here we are for the 12th live action remake that Disney is churning out. Oh baby. This is the remake of 1992's Aladdin. And hey, we've seen the film. This is the non-spoiler part of the review. Let's catch up on how we were all feeling going in with the trailers and the talking and the Will Smith blue genie.
Thank you,
Benny,
Crosby.
do you want to kick us off there?
Absolutely. I think we're all on a pretty similar page with this one that can be best summed up as fuck these live action remakes and fuck this one especially.
Yeah.
That's
it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Why the hell is Guy Ritchie making one of these? I distinctly remember every single time I would be reminded that he was directing this one. I was like, wow, really? They
gave him the gig?
It's such an
The
odd
King Arthur guy?
pick.
The more I think about it, the more that, when I was kind of coming into this movie, the more I thought that made sense. I mean, think about it. It's a street rat. It's the kind of the back alleys of Agrabah. That almost seems perfectly typecast for Guy Ritchie. If you think about Snatch and if you don't consider this like a straight remake, line for line type thing, there's a lot of room to play around with that. And he feels like a really cool choice to be able to do something like that.
Definitely an interesting choice. A lot of the time they pick, people who don't really have that specific of a voice in these movies. I would say like a family-friendly Disney musical.
Well, yeah,
magic.
That's what makes it really weird.
I was like, yeah, this is an odd pick. Set in a ancient fictitious city.
And he hasn't had a real big hit in a while. We had Sherlock Holmes in 2009, which was very successful. Game of Shadows, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., King Arthur. I'd say those three pretty lukewarm receptions for those three. So I agree with you. It was an interesting point, but I also agree with you, Connor, in that he does have the bullet point credentials to make a film about a street rat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think the trailers did anything to endear us to the film whatsoever or the general public. We all remember the genie fiasco. We got our first look at him on Entertainment Weekly or whatever it was. Everyone was like, why isn't he blue? Then we got the first trailer and they're like, no, it's okay, he's blue. And everyone was like, holy fuck, why is he blue? Take that away. This
Make it stop.
full CGI version of Will Smith. And it all goes back even further than that, just remaking this beloved classic that is so defined by a singular voice, very literally being Robin Williams in the role of the genie who dominates that film. The prevailing sentiment was just like, why are they doing this? They can't do this. This is sacred. And then the casting of Will Smith, everyone was like, yeah, still pretty unsure about that. So I personally going in, I was just, as a big fan of the original, very wary.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point, which is that we are all, and I think perhaps more you and me, Ben, because I don't hear you talk about it quite as much, George. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I'll correct you.
Yeah,
it's the first movie I ever saw in the cinema with my mum.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
it's very, very precious for me.
All right, so then we are all
Yeah.
very much on the same page, which is that is like a defining film of my childhood and your guys' childhood. And this feels like that made me very nervous that they are kind of touching on that particular heartstring.
Yeah.
For me. So I was very much with you, Ben, in terms of the trepidation going into this.
Yeah, it was almost like sacrilegious that they were going to redo Robin Williams' Genie.
Yeah.
And Will Smith hasn't been on the best track record. Didn't love any of the trailers for this. Wasn't really that amped on Guy Ritchie being involved. So really, Aladdin for me was set up to be a dramatic failure.
Yeah. I was going in almost like in my head, I was so ready to hate this film. Like I was almost gleeful, like, just kind of watching a garbage fire.
So should we talk straight off the top, Will Smith? I think that's going to be a huge conversation point in the reviews for this. And for me, with all the trepidation I had, I think this is the best Will Smith has been on screen in a very, very long time. I was laughing. I was just enjoying seeing him having fun, flexing his acting muscles, and just being the Will Smith that we've all kind of grown to love in the 90s. I felt like he was just felt a little more at ease in his own skin. I don't know if I'm reading into things
Ironically,
too much.
not
but,
in his own skin.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like he was settled in a role that was good for what he can do.
Yeah, look, I think I'll put a small caveat on that. I think that his version of the genie was never stronger than when he was doing his own thing. Any callback to the Robin Williams genie felt muted, kind of felt almost mandatory, like he was
Forced, yeah.
Yeah, there was some line for line, kind of retellings that just kind of felt like, okay, let's get that over with, and now he can do his own thing. So I thought that when he took the character and made it his own, that was when that is when he was shining the most.
Yeah, when he was playing Robin Williams' version of the genie, I thought it was really awful. Thankfully, I think for the most part, he was playing Will Smith as the genie.
Yes.
And that worked really well.
Yeah.
When they weren't trying to ape the original film and it kind of stood on its own, it was much better than I expected.
Yeah. I think that's, and not to kind of give away too much, but I think that's probably the overwhelming sentiment that I had across this film, which is that when this movie, decided to have its own voice, that's when I felt like it was peaking. Like I felt like that's when it really felt good. Whenever it relied, whenever we got the line for line remakes or anything or retellings or anything like that, it just kind of felt, okay, so this is just not as good as the animation. Cool.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. And I think I watched about half of the original last night immediately after coming back from the screening to sort of just compare a few bullet points. I was more interested in like, what did they change? What did they add in? And I think all those changes that they did and all those new ingredients worked really well for me. Not all of them. We'll get more into that in the spoiler component. But I was very happy with that. I was very, very happy with the relationship that they presented between the genie and Aladdin, Mena Massoud, who I just felt this really great sense of camaraderie between them. And I just thought that was one of the big takeaways for me, is how much I felt like these guys cared about each other and had each other's back in a certain way.
Yeah. I think that my favorite bits of Aladdin in this, like of the character of Aladdin, were when he was riffing with off someone else. I mean, this kind of segues into a different point, but I wasn't wildly impressed with Aladdin, the actor, and I don't know that I really put that on the shoulders of the actor so much as I think that the
script.
There's just something. Yeah, the script would probably be a lot of it. And I think the direction a little bit in terms of, I think that they were really constrained. Anything that was based off the animated film, it just felt like they were constrained and didn't have the freedom to tell their own story.
Yeah, I'm really in two minds about Mena Massoud as Aladdin, because both him and Naomi Scott, who plays Jasmine, I wanted to like them. I was really straining to at points, though. I thought their performances were just weak in ways I couldn't quite figure out why. And I don't want to put it on them because I think, like you said, it's something in the script or the direction. When they were firing, I was like, okay, this is really working. But there were just too many instances where I was like, man, these guys are so much less emotive than their animated counterparts.
But to counter that, all I'll say is that Aladdin was never my favorite part of the first Aladdin. Even when I was a kid, it was about the world. It was about, the genie. It was about the various characters in there. Aladdin was not like a character I wanted to put on my wall as maybe say like even Simba from The Lion King. I felt maybe more of a kinship with that character in some way, shape or form. So that's not like, I think he did a pretty good job in this. I think I probably enjoyed his performance more than you guys did.
But I'll go so far as to say that for every character in this film.
Yeah, let's bring Jafar into this because he's even a bigger example.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they were like flat or I didn't like them compared to the originals. Even I thought they were bad in a lot of it.
Okay.
Like throughout, and probably especially Jafar.
There's a couple of scenes where it feels like, oh, this is the first time you've ever been on a set and are acting like that. It just kind of I got that sense that it's like, oh, this doesn't feel natural. It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, as the movie was starting up before it found its footing, I was feeling just uncomfortable in the cinema because we were in a packed cinema. This is a big premiere, and there's like industry heads and shit there, people who are like, this is our movie that we're presenting. And I'm just sitting there like, fuck, this is not washing over me well.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable.
The
for all
first
the people
20
here.
minutes to me felt very kind of just a little bit. I don't know if cringy is the right word, but just,
I would say, cringy.
yeah, like I get what you mean. It felt uneasy. You're like, oh, this isn't right. There's something kind of off about the acting. There's something a little bit off about the musical numbers. There's, and that's something that we can address as well in terms of the music. But just, yeah, it felt a bit uneasy. And then once the film picked up a little bit, I started to kind of get a little bit more enjoyment out of it. And there were moments where I was really like, once it started going, I got really engaged and I was like, oh yeah, okay, like I'm having fun now. But inevitably it would come down back to like, oh, okay, now that I'm starting to feel uncomfortable again.
Yeah, there is a very specific tipping point in this movie where I went from being very uncomfortable and not liking it at all to being like, this is terrific.
Yeah.
And beyond from that point, I don't think it kept that quality, but the good outweighed the bad for pretty much the rest of the film, which is one of the most confusing film experiences I've had in a long time.
So interesting.
Going from like 1 out of 10 to honestly like 9 or 10 out of 10 for a very brief amount of time, and then just being much better for the rest of it. It was so jarring for me.
Really? I'm so surprised. I felt like, it's not a spoiler to say the opening song is Arabian Nights. And there's just something about that song. I was humming it all day at work today there. I love that song. And just hearing the new interpretation with more of the choir, I was like, holy fuck, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm really enjoying this. And I will say, yeah, those introductory scenes with Aladdin and the chase sequence in the city that we see in the trailers, that's probably the weakest part of the film. But I don't think I'm at the same level as you guys to say that this was horrible or awful. I'm at the stage, I think overall in this, I'm sort of like, my expectations were so low that I was actually like, wow, okay, whoa, I'm okay. Here we go.
Speechless.
This is kind of going somewhere interesting.
Can I say, Georgie, it was really distracting in the cinema when you were all like,
Hey,
fuck.
Fonzie.
I'm just figuring it out, man. That's what I got to do, So I don't think I'm on the same level as you guys in terms of how poor that front half was.
yeah, we hated it, didn't we, Connor?
I think we're being pretty fair. Like I'd probably not quite put myself at a 1 out of 10. The first song right off the bat, like Arabian Nights, just felt a bit muted to me. And I really stressed, like it felt like an unease. I wasn't like, fuck this movie, like this is the worst piece of shit ever. Like I wasn't angry at it. It just kind of, it felt a bit off. And I obviously was still willing to give the movie a chance because when it did pick up, I let it kind of, take me off to wherever it needed to take me. So yeah, it's not terrible, but it certainly wasn't good and it just didn't feel quite right.
I love how completely different all three of our reactions are, because I liked Arabian Nights, honestly, going in. I was actually like, I'm really kind of digging this because it's a real reimagination of the original version of that song. The lyrics are completely reworked for very understandable reasons.
And actually, just quickly going off that, I read some articles that those lyrics have changed since 1993, where they got a lot of negative press about Aladdin.
They changed between the cinema and the home release.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I believe those lyrics are consistent from there. I could be wrong, though. They might have made more changes.
They're different from the home release. Maybe they're the same as the stage production, I would imagine.
Because there was a change in 1993, and then there was another change in 2001, I believe. So there have been multiple revisions to these lyrics.
Yeah, and so this version, the first one I've seen since the home release version of Aladdin, are completely different except the chorus. And I really liked it. I thought it was a really interesting kind of recontextualization of Agrabah, of this world. And then we get onto the Aladdin stuff, which I actively did really dislike.
What was it about that?
Just nothing was working, nothing on any level. And the first song, One Jump Ahead, I think, the first song from Aladdin, I hated the musical arrangement for that. It's so different than the original one, and I don't think it worked at all.
Let's not stray too far into spoilers or specifics, but I think in a general sense, I'd say that none of the original songs felt better than the originals. None of them quite hit that for me.
Yes, I'll agree with that. I thought that Arabian Nights, as I've said, was really well done. I thought there were some really interesting new songs that were added in that I quite enjoyed. And I'm not a musical guy. I tell you what, when people break into songs in movies, I start to stress out, man.
It's part of the reason I was uncomfortable because I know how much you hate musicals. And when I wasn't
hate
digging it,
them.
and I love musicals, I was like, man, George must be fucking.
We must have been like on different sides of the earth or something, even though we're sitting right next to each other.
Yeah.
Because, I don't quite know why I was enjoying the musical numbers so much, because musicals is not my thing. Let's just talk quickly about Naomi Scott and Princess Jasmine. So watching the original, as I mentioned, Jasmine is sassy, you know, she holds her own, and I really love that about that character. And I think they kind of embellished on that and added a few more interesting layers to this character that I appreciated, and I thought that just brought it a little bit up to 2019. Did you guys feel the same way there with Jasmine? And
It was riding the line between fleshing out one of the main characters who didn't have all that much in the original and feeling a little forced.
Yeah.
At points, and
I
with
didn't
certain
want
plot
to
points,
let
but
that kind of cynicism of studios and the way that they cast people and the way that they write people affect too much how I felt about this character. I realize that's kind of thinly veiled, but I think that it was kind of on the knife's edge, and I think it could have gone either way. And I just kind of let it. I let it pass because I was like, look. I think that I'm just going to pretend that that's done with the best of intentions and that it's genuine. And I think if you approach it like that, then it's fine. I think that it adds a little bit more. I think most of the characters had a little bit added to them, a little bit extra added to them, and that made them feel a little bit more multidimensional.
Yeah, and a few rejigged and sort of recontextualized.
The only one that felt, that it didn't have that level of that felt like there was less to the character is I was going to say the genie, but even then, as far as a character, there seems to be. Maybe I'll take that back. It's hard to say because comparing Will Smith and Robin Williams is kind of like comparing apples and oranges in this.
It's if you compare, like, the camaraderie between them feels, I don't know, it feels more thinly veiled in the old one.
Really?
Like, I feel like this one, I don't know, I felt like they really had each other's back in this.
There's something about that line that Genie delivers to in the original to Aladdin, which is what? Oh God, I'm gonna stuff up, but paraphrasing is, I've been lied to so many times. You've lied to so many people. It's good to be part of the club or something like that. That I felt was a more impactful line than anything in this entire film. Like I find there to be such genuine kind of such a genuine relationship between the genie and Aladdin in the original. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm romanticizing the original because it's such a defining part of my childhood, or if that's just something that's genuinely in there. But
I think
how
the
I felt.
relationship between Aladdin and Genie is very strong in both. But
Yeah.
I will say, I think Robin Williams does a much better job as a dramatic actor in the original than Will Smith does in this one.
But he's a lot more bonkers. Like this Will Smith genie's a little more like, you've got a few more heartfelt moments, and there's a few scenes in there where you get a little bit more below the surface.
But
I
think
would say Robin Williams' version is much more soulful than Will
Okay.
Smith. Will Smith
Soulful.
felt
Yeah.
Soulful, or layers is in details and more time on screen to kind of see him interact in different scenarios.
So I think that there's some
See
legitimacy
under the
to what
hood kind of thing.
you're talking about because I think there's a really great juxtaposition with Robin Williams where he can be the wackiest of wacky, so that when he does his serious bit or when he goes for that kind of soulful punchline type thing, it feels that much more impactful because he's not being wacky. I think that
I just think he's a
lends
better
itself-
actor.
I mean,
Because I would say
Yeah.
there's a lot of similar plot points in this film that are in the original, and I think Robin Williams just delivers them a lot better. They just rang a little more false from Will Smith to me, who I think is one of the most charismatic actors in all of blockbuster history, and a very charming, funny guy. I just don't think the drama from his character in this film works as well.
yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and I haven't seen those scenes at the end of the film that I'm referring to.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
When you watch the back half of that movie, it's really there.
That's not top of mind for me
There's
right now.
key moments that I can remember the look on Genie's face, and I can remember oh shucks kid type thing. Like that for me that sells that original in a way that I don't know would have even been possible for people to do in the new one.
Can we jump on to one of the biggest talking points about this film, which is the look of Genie when he's full on Genie?
Yeah.
Because that was probably the biggest controversy surrounding this film. It was such a meme for ages there. I will say for myself, when he first popped up in the cave, I thought it looked so much worse than I had seen in the trailers.
Right.
Because it was a big screen.
I was shocked and appalled, honestly. I was like, holy fuck, is he going to look like this in this movie? And I think it vastly improved as the movie went on. And, a lot of the movie is just Will Smith as Will Smith, and that was all great, obviously. But I don't think it was ever worse than when he first popped up. So it got better.
Yeah.
It gets better.
The when he first comes up, there is some serious uncanny valley. And I'll even break it down even more than that. The very first scene that he pops up in is kind of fine because
when he's huge.
Yeah, you see that in
awesome.
you see that in the trailer. Like he gets big and then he kind of comes down, and that's the scene
That's
that
where it gets
people
bad.
kind of kicked off at. And they have every right to, because it is some serious uncanny valley. It looks weird.
But they moved swiftly on from that, and I was overall, from where I was with the trailer, I was reasonably impressed with how they executed the Genie. Definitely wasn't anything fantastic. They're not going to go home with the Oscar for, best visual effects, but serviceable.
Yeah, I'm still not. There were just so many points where the way that his little blue head fit onto that giant neck and fat abbed body, I was
his
really
biceps.
like they were going too much for that giant cartoony original version. I think, as we said, all the best parts of this movie were when it's making its own identity, and that felt too much like trying to recapture the original. And it wasn't working.
And I didn't really even register that the top knot that he's wearing they're kind of going for a similar top knot. I just like, they're so wildly different. I never got that parallel, and I don't know why. I don't think they should have gone for that.
I didn't mind the design. Like the design of the Genie, I thought was fine.
It was
like
just execution.
It's execution, and I don't even know what they could have done about that. Like they completely CGI'd him.
Yep. I think do you guys want to talk any more about that? Because I'd like to move on to Jafar.
Oh boy.
No, can we talk about the Genie some more?
So I think I'm at a different spot with you guys, because going into this, Jafar just looked wildly off. And going back and watching the original, Jafar is like more of a sorcerer. He's like this really cunning, tall wizard that's he's sort of gnarled, and I don't know. He's just got
There's
this
a distinctive look to him.
Distinctive, that's the word. And this one, in the trailers, I was like, that does not look like Jafar. Like, I'm not getting that parallel there. And what I liked in this film, and I don't think they completely nailed it, but what I liked in this film, what they did with him, was they added a lot more complexity to his character. They added a few more layers in there, and almost like a Game of Thrones, trying to usurp the Sultan. And I quite liked those new layers that they added in there. As I said, don't think they nailed it, but from where I was sitting before, hey, this was so much better.
Yeah, massive improvement into what I thought was going to happen. I mean, just from the aesthetics of it, he looked nothing like the original Jafar. That's such a distinctive character in the original that I was, I think, the same as you. I was really concerned about how they're going to deal with that. Credit where credit's due. I think I can't remember the actor's name, but he did a really good job, with what he was given. I certainly can't.
Marwan Kinzari.
I'm not even going to attempt to repeat that name because I'm going to get it wrong. I think that it's. I'm not a fan of the character in general, like for the new one, just because it's so divorced from. It doesn't. It's ironic though. Like I have said that this movie was never better than when it tried not to be the original. But my main issue with Jafar is that it's not like the original, which kind of shows the catch-22 of remaking something that's people's childhood.
Where are you sitting here, Benny?
Their childhood.
Yeah, I like that we have such divergent opinions on this. Because I thought the performance was very flat. I liked some of what they did with the character. They definitely added a lot more to him. There was just a dash too much. We're not so different, you and I, to it, which is, very done. But he worked. He wasn't the main focus of the film. I don't have too many more complaints about him. Let's talk about something positive. The costuming all around was awesome.
Yes.
Like
The look of this film, in
the
terms
physical
of
production of it was really nice.
I loved the layout of Agrabah. I think they really nailed that. The setting, the sand, the
felt
color,
real, didn't it? Like,
yeah.
It felt like this could exist.
Yeah, I
Apart
love
from
that
a
it was
couple of
this little
shots.
like port city.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really cool kind of element of it. Like it felt like as they kind of add to the original song, it felt like this kind of melting pot of all these different kind of cultures meeting.
Yeah. No, I thought that was the production design, the coloring, all that I think was top notch.
And they definitely. So my for my 9 to 5 job, my boss is her background is Iraqi, and she watched the a trailer and said, "Hey, this doesn't seem very Middle Eastern in terms of the aesthetic. They're bringing a lot of Indian elements, and you saw that with the turbans and the pinks, and the city almost had like the Jaipur, that Indian city, the pink city. I don't know if you guys have seen that, where it's almost like that terracotta pink sort of look to it. So I thought it was interesting how they added in more of those Indian elements to the Middle Eastern and vibe, and made that melting pot. It gave it an interesting otherworldly kind of feel.
And it also felt a lot like Disney being like, if they can't tell whose culture we're appropriating, they can't get angry at us. So it's a bit of everything from here and
But
there.
I mean, I think that's actually quite clever on Disney's point of view. Like Agrabah is a fictional city. So this felt very much, a mix of Indian, kind of Mediterranean, or I guess Mediterranean, heavily influenced by Middle Eastern. The aesthetic,
North African, Morocco.
Yeah, like this could have been placed just about anywhere.
Far fewer references to Islam than in the original film.
Yep.
Which was kind of part of their whole thing, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose this felt very scrubbed of anything that could possibly offend anyone ever, which is not surprising.
They had to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I like the original Aladdin, where or certain parts of it. Like there's some stuff that I don't think that they could have done or should have done. But there's a line about where I think he says like oh Allah or something like that, which is just such a nothing reference to the kind of placement of this, or the religion of the that would obviously be kind of followed by these people, but nothing of that kind of reference here.
No way.
Which I think makes it feel less real or less kind of visceral. There's something about that original that felt a little bit more, I don't know, lived in.
Yeah, this one's definitely sanitized of a lot of elements that the original had.
What else, guys? Because it's like, are we moving into spoilers now? We getting to the wrap up phase?
There's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think I can't believe it's taken us this long to get to this. Two of my favorite characters in the original are Iago and Abu, and I think that two of my least favorite characters in the most recent version are Iago and Abu. And one of the key reasons for that is that animation, particularly with animals, allows for a certain level of expression. We've talked about it a lot in our looking for Lion King. Whereas if you take characters that have been animated that have that kind of level of emotion and all that, and then you just make them look photorealistic, you lose that. And so I think
animals.
Yeah, and so in this there are no Abu and Iago aren't characters; they're just animals, and I think that's a huge loss.
Yeah, Boo was a weird one, especially because he didn't look like a real monkey, but he also wasn't like a particularly expressive or interesting character.
Yeah,
there was something weird about him.
Really? Yeah, he looked like a spider monkey to me or something.
He looked like they were trying to make him more cartoony, but
there's a couple of close-ups on his face, and it looked weird.
To be honest, Abu wasn't really more of a problem for me, but it just felt like they were really missing that brashness that Gilbert Gottfried brought from in the original.
Yeah, that's a huge part.
I felt like, Abu, maybe it's not as good, but that was really lost.
Yeah, as someone for Jafar to play off. to add a bit of dimension to his
Stupid
character.
bird.
Yeah. It's and he ended up just being relegated to just kind of like a nothing character. And man, my voice is so
Yeah, it's suddenly gone.
Can you fucking go hack that
Oh
up?
my
or-
God.
But I mean, and that's what I mean. Like they aren't characters. They're just animals.
They're there
like,
because they're in the original.
yeah, and that's the only reason. And I mean, I think that's just such a huge shame.
And that makes me fear a lot for the upcoming Lion King.
I don't know how they're
Fearful.
going to do that. That's going to be bizarre. I think they, at the very least, they have the advantage of having voice actors, whereas Abu, even in the original, didn't have a voice. Or he did, but like
Sort
not
of did.
Yeah, not
Frank
not
Welker,
dialogue.
most prolific actor of all time.
But Iago was just relegated to, what an actual parrot would, like a weird, creepy parrot would sound
Yeah,
like.
like a weird attempted joke every now and then. I thought Raja looked amazing.
Oh,
I was
looked
really
amazing.
blown away by the tiger, Jasmine's tiger, Raja.
That was probably the best executed CG tiger I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and that
take
includes
that Life of Pi.
Fuck yous. Yeah, he
I
looked
was really
absolutely
impressed by that.
stunning.
Yeah.
And I think they, not quite as effectively as the original, but they had a good relationship. He had a good relationship with Jasmine, and I liked seeing them on screen together.
Just maybe a quick overview of this being a musical, the songs in the film, because obviously there are the old songs, there are new songs. How did you guys feel about the redone versions of the originals, the covers? I thought one of them was an absolute knockout success.
Which one was that?
A Whole New World. I thought
Yeah.
Naomi Scott was the only one in this movie who I really thought was carrying the torch musically. I thought she was
She's got
phenomenal.
pipes.
Every other song I thought was just like overproduced and underperformed. And
So much auto-tune.
Yeah, it wasn't really doing it for me.
I mean, Will Smith, was he singing? Because I don't know, man.
They told him to come in and say the lines
Yeah.
on beat, like
Rap.
say
Yeah.
these words longer, and,
we'll
then we'll
just-
take it from there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
look,
can hear those auto-tune artifacts, man. It's just, it does my head
and the
in.
occasional ah, ha 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 ha.
yeah, I thought that the new songs. I think the only person that really has new songs is Jasmine.
I loved her new song, I gotta say. I really dug it.
I will say though, it felt as though it kind of didn't belong, largely because it clearly didn't. It felt more poppy. It felt like it was definitely created.
It
now.
felt like a High School Musical kind of song. I thought they were awful. I wanted to like them, but I was feeling conscious of you being in the room. I'm like, man, someone who doesn't like musicals is going to be fucking clawing their ears out right now.
I thought
I'm so surprised that you really enjoyed. Like as a song, like it's fine as a pop song, but
I think
liked-
you need to watch some good musicals because
Yeah.
I'm worried you haven't. Like, if you're liking this, I'm worried that you might like some.
it sounded
I
like
will
something
not
that
watch any
belongs.
musicals. Do not force
Except
me
the ones
to do
that
that.
Disney force feed us.
Yeah,
I thought, like, compared to, oh my God, what's happened to my voice, man? I've got a frog in my throat. Sorry, everyone. I thought that Aladdin and the Genie, their songs just did not hit. It looked like it was lip sunk. It just did not feel like they were singing. But with the Jasmine songs, I felt like she was really projecting and she was really feeling the song. And I think the performance and the way she was delivering it, that for me made it work a lot better.
I think I'll give you in terms of she's the like I said, she's the only one that I felt really had pipes on her and could sing. Like it felt like could sing. None of the musical numbers of this had an aspect which I think made the originals really pop, which is with the physicality aspect of it. This felt very muted in that sense, and I think that's largely to do with the medium. Animation, you can have them do anything and still sing. Whereas this one, it looks very odd if someone is doing something immensely physical and also singing as well, even if they are lip syncing.
Like, to an extent, yes, but this is Disney making like a huge blockbuster with how many hundred millions of dollars. Like, with CGI, they can do anything, and they were doing a bunch in this movie. It felt like weirdly muted and restrained.
Yeah,
what they were
well,
doing.
I mean, like just
the Prince Ali number, which is online on YouTube, you can see it's like so much less is happening in here than in the original.
Yeah,
And-
oh my goodness, it's quite crazy. I've forgotten how much there is in that original. With all
And
the
there are-
animals and stuff.
Yeah, and there are like beats in that song, like literal beats that combine with the action that are still retained in this version, but don't really
They
not
just
assigned
feel
to
like
anything. They're just
we
there.
had to put this in there. Let's not go too crazy or anything. Like,
Yeah,
I know what
it's
you
odd.
mean. Like it feels very muted. So, in terms of the actual musical numbers, nothing really popped out to me as being particularly interesting or
Yeah.
great.
Um,
Was there anything else positive that you guys can think of? Because I need to stress that there were moments in this film that I finished off this movie on a relatively high note. Like I felt like I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would. And I think the high moments really lent towards me forgiving the low moments, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think like I was laughing a lot. I enjoyed the chemistry between the cast members, and those were the elements that really worked for me.
Good-
and
good-
the design and the look.
Yeah, good amount of humor in this. I think that there's I really enjoyed where they went through this. There's a particular shout out to I can't remember her name, and maybe someone can help me. It's
The Handmaid.
The Handmaid.
Oh yeah, she was fantastic.
And I've seen her in something before. Like this is really bothering me.
Nassim Pedrad.
Yeah, Nassim Pedrad. Do you know what I'm trying to think of what she's from. She's very distinctive.
Quite a lot of things. Despicable Me 2, The Lorax, Gilmore Girls,
God,
The
when have I
Mindy
seen her?
Project.
Gilmore Girls is where
That's
where
it.
Connor knows her from.
Yeah,
Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
There it
that
is.
must be it. Yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, a lot of good comedy in this movie of a very different vein than the original, which is all like
Very, yeah.
super quotable celebrity impressions. It's all Robin Williams, whereas this one has that more conversational, naturalistic comedy.
Yeah. I think that because that was a departure, like they weren't just trying to copy the lines from the original. I thought that were parts that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I thought that the theme of like trying to fit in with the world worked well with this character as well, and sort of expanded from the original trilogy of characters to 4 characters. Man, my voice is going. I don't know what's
Don't have to
going
keep
on.
saying it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah.
gone. Forget
It's
about
just
it. You're only wasting
I'm
it now.
Freaking me out. I'm freaking me out.
Should we do a final wrap up on
Yeah. So
thoughts before we
yeah.
get into spoilers?
in terms of where I was at going into this, I am so surprised with how much I did enjoy Aladdin. Yes, it's not the best thing since sliced bread. It's not super sophisticated, but I thought on the whole, from where I was expecting it to go, this was so much more enjoyable. So hey, overall, this is one of the better live action remakes that Disney's churned out, in my opinion.
Yeah, you've really hit on a key word there, which is where our expectations were going in, which is the rockest of rock bottom.
Yeah.
I think anyone listening to us reviewing this has to know that going in. For me, this, as I said earlier, this movie kind of hit a tipping point where I started liking it more than I wasn't, and that ended with a movie that on average I did enjoy. I think when it's bad, it is absolutely terrible. When it's good, it's really good. I think if you're not a fan of musicals, despite how George has reacted to this film, then this movie will be fucking chalk on a chalkboard to you. Nails on a chalkboard is the saying.
Chalk on a chalkboard.
Yeah, that's not nice either. It is not the worst. One of these live action ones. I like this more than Beauty and the Beast, and a lot of people kind of enjoyed that just fine. So, whatever. What do I know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm sitting pretty much smack dab in the middle of you guys. I came out of this feeling good because it was so far above what I expected it to be. I spent a good chunk of this film kind of confused by how I felt. Like I wasn't sure how to feel. Like I think this movie gave me a lot of uneasiness in parts is probably the best way to describe it. Other parts just kind of pure enjoyment. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I don't have any really strong feelings towards it one way or another. Unfortunately,
That's a 5 out of 10 right there.
smack dab right in the middle.